Good morning, fans of music. We are excited today. Our guest today is a guitarist, a mandolinist, and a vocalist from the East Nash Grass. Our guest today is James Kee. James, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
We will be discussing his origins in music. We'll be discussing their performance at Bourbon and Beyond, and of course, their new album, Last Chance to Win. So we are excited. Why are you excited about Bourbon and Beyond, specifically Thursday, September 19th, when you'll be performing down there?
I think that festival is certainly one of the bigger ones that we've done, and to be included with such an awesome lineup, I think is was really great to see our name on that flyer with or that poster with so many other great artists. We love Kentucky, and we love playing there every chance that we get, and would like to play there more. And so as soon as we got the opportunity to do this one, we were super stoked.
Yeah, I mean, it is insane. Just Your Day. It's Sting, it's Dwight Yoakam, or no, Lyle Lovett, my bad. I always get those two confused. And Matchbox 20, The Wallflowers. I mean, it's just insane. Sister Sadie. I mean, it's just. Are you
Yeah,
going to
man.
stick around and see anybody else perform?
Well, I think we're pretty obligated to see Sting. Uh,
Hmm.
we're all pretty excited about that. I wish we could stick around the next day. I think Bruce Hornsby's playing,
Yep.
and I love Bruce. My friend John Mylander plays for Bruce, and so I would love to be able to see them. So won't be able to see them, but yes, we're excited. They've got a great bluegrass presence. A lot of other great bluegrass bands there. So we'll see as much music as we can.
That is awesome. So, how did your grandfather inspire your love of music?
Well, you did good research. I appreciate that. He was from Nashville, and he played the banjo and he played guitar as well, mostly kind of finger style, kind of like Earl. He was a big Earl Scruggs fan. Actually got to meet Earl a couple times because he lived here in Nashville. And so he would come to Signal Mountain, which is where I'm from, and visit us as young kids. And he would always go missing on Friday night and go to this thing, and I didn't know what it was as a young child, and I found out later it was called the Mountain Opry, and it was an every Friday night show. They're still doing it in some iteration on Signal. It's I think once a month now on Saturdays, but for years this show ran kind of almost like an open mic night, but also had a lot of jamming and things like that at the old Walden's Ridge Civic Center. So every Friday night from 8 to 11, and I went with him in 1997 for the first time. I was 9 years old, and I think he expected me to fall asleep, and I really loved it. I was enamored with the music, and I knew I wanted to get into music of some kind. I had sang in choir in church and school prior to that, and so I didn't know what that would look like at 9 years old. You don't know anything. But I just loved bluegrass, and I loved the simplicity of it. It kind of spoke to me, and so he and I started going to that for years, and I started playing about a year or so later.
Nice. And then I understand you kind of carried on that tradition on Mondays and Wednesdays at different places.
I did, yeah, and just this year, I finally had to give up some of those long time commitments. I'm a creature of habit, and if I get into something, I may just do it for years and years. May have the same breakfast for years and years. But I started playing with Harry Clark at D's 7 years ago last month, and I had moved to town in that year. I moved to Nashville at the end of 2016, and so I was kind of looking for something like that. I liked that it was not downtown. Um, Nothing against downtown, but bluegrass wasn't really not a super marketable thing downtown. Downtown has a certain type of folks and listeners that are fun and all on its own, but they want to hear drums and some more drinking style music, and Dee's gave us an opportunity to play some bluegrass and a really cool environment. And I actually, to be totally honest, moved to Nashville because I was a little disenchanted with bluegrass, having done it my entire life. And I became, re-interested in it, I guess you could say, because the musicians here were just so great. I'd never played with folks just one after another of that caliber. There were some great musicians where I was from, but man, there's great musicians really within 2 miles of me out here in the suburbs of Old Hickory. I could name you
Oh,
10 wonderful
nice.
musicians that live out here. There's just so much fantastic talent. And I really loved just the general camaraderie of Nashville. And Dee's provided us kind of a place for that, because Monday nights I realized pretty quick was like a musician's hang, a musician's night off. Everybody's getting in off the road. When I first moved to town, I would go out on the weekends. And Nashville kind of turns into a totally different place on the weekends. You get all these weekend warriors and
Hmm.
bachelorette parties and all this stuff. And nothing against that, but like I moved here not to go out to the bars every week. Like I wanted to be part of something different, and mostly just be here for the music. And Monday night gave me a chance to meet all my friends and make new friends, and it kind of came this musicians hang. And once I realized that, I knew we had a really good thing going, and we just kept it going until we started traveling on the road, and our road obligations just became a little too much for us to keep it going.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, it's got to be a great place to live when you're as passionate about music as you are. I mean, it seems like all the country stars nowadays have their own bar down there.
Yeah, that's for sure. We've yet to see the first bluegrasser do that. Maybe in time. But yeah, I'm from Tennessee. My mom grew up here in Nashville. I'm from Chattanooga, and or Signal Mountain to be exact. And I don't know. There's good and bad with the change. I still love Music City for what it is. The Broadway thing is I don't know. It kind of surprised me that it went from being like a kind of a sleepy little place with a few honky tonks and some adult bookstores and pawn shops to this multi-billion with a B dollar tourist industry. So, but there's so much more in Nashville than just that. There is a contingent of the musician population that works down there, but I would venture to say most of the musicians that live here do not work down there or even go down there really. But yes, there's so much great music here. It makes it a very unique place to live.
You mentioned how some of the legends and how they, compare to your grandfather's style. What about Cory Walker? How is his banjo similar or different from your grandfather's style playing?
These are great questions. Cory, I always kind of think of him as like a chameleon, because man, that guy can play every style. He can play Scruggs style as good as anybody. Um, he can play like Crow. He can do this Sammy Sheeler impersonation that always gets me giggling, just because I'm a banjo player myself, and I notice some of these nuances that maybe not everybody else who wasn't obsessed with banjo like we were growing up would notice. But Cory, I think it honestly even took a few years. I've known him a really long time. In fact, I met him in Nashville in 2001, and we were both pretty young. And I didn't exactly get to see him a whole lot after in those early years, but we reconnected later when he was in college at MTSU, and he was a really kind of a straight ahead banjo player at first, like through his teen years and all that. He was and he was always great, super clean, and his timing and note separation was fantastic. But he started developing his own style after mastering literally everyone else's style over the years. And his creativity knows no bounds, and he's a genre hopper and can do all these different things and incorporate bebop licks and stuff like that, into bluegrass songs. And I think he's such a huge part of our sound, just because he's so damn good, but also we just don't ever know what he's going to do. And his ideas are just so creative and endless that it'd be hard to even put him in one category or one style. I really do think he's the best in the business.
That is awesome. I was going to say it must be great having such talented folks with you that are so versatile and so able to adapt to each other.
It is, man. Standing next to him is really a treat. Especially me, like I mentioned, as a banjo player myself. I don't really play banjo professionally per se. I mostly started focusing on mandolin and what I play now. But playing rhythm guitar, I think it's nice that to be able to also play banjo because I can kind of anticipate some of his movements a little bit. I can kind of read the roadmap for what he's going to do somewhat and try to accentuate that with my rhythm playing. And man, that's just a lot of fun. It's just super fun to play good bluegrass rhythm, behind somebody that can really drive the banjo.
Exactly. So with you guys are considered the ambassadors for bluegrass. What are your responsibilities as the ambassadors?
I don't know where that title came from, but we liked it, so we stuck with it. I think the kind of like with the D's thing, which is I think about where that title came from. It's just trying to keep the music going and also be inclusive with it. And that was one of the things we loved about the D's residency is we would always get guests up and friends of ours to play. And because it was a weekly residency, I haven't taken as many other outside music gigs over the last few years outside of East Nash Grass, but the rest of the band has. Everybody else has worked with, gosh, everybody in the business. So that meant a lot of Mondays they wouldn't necessarily be there, and so I'd get a lot of, we would get a lot of folks to fill in for them, and so that just kind of created this communal aspect to it, and I think that's kind of part of what we view it as because that's what I loved about Nashville is that like I really don't or haven't dealt with a whole lot of ego here in Nashville. People that move here, if you're interested in music for the money and the fame, LA or New York might be better for you. But if you really love the music, that's who moves to Nashville. And so we just know we noticed that, and we also noticed when we started playing here that there was a little bit of a void in bluegrass. I had some friends even that lived here 12, 15 years ago that left because there was no bluegrass presence and they felt like Nashville was just kind of an expensive growing city and there wasn't any reason for them to stay. And so we wanted to kind of try to foster a little bit more of a bluegrass community with both the Monday night thing and the Wednesday night thing that I hosted for a long time as well.
Some people feel that bluegrass is just about tradition and, you know, doing the classics. But why is it really more about being wild and spontaneous?
Well, I think the ability to improvise is great and unique because you can kind of be yourself and bring some of your own ideas to whatever a traditional song that we've all heard and know. And also, I love the spontaneity of you don't need any electricity. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I love several different types of music, but I love the ability to just create it anywhere outside. I've had a lot of great jam sessions in my living room here, just at home, and I always loved that part of bluegrass that you could take it anywhere, and it's maybe a little bit akin to jazz. I think a little less probably musically sophisticated in terms of just all the chord structures, but what everybody plays, the improv is of the same essence, and um, I just think it's nice that everybody can present their own ideas to a song that we all know. And similar to that, those other genres like jazz, there's this repertoire that everybody knows and that everybody can play together with. And folks like me and the rest of East Nash Grass that's been doing it for our entire lives have a little bit of an unfair advantage.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I was going to say it always helps to have that experience, and it sounds like you and your bandmates have got plenty of that.
It's all we've ever done, man. I mean, each of us loves other type of music and have done to some extent other types of music, but we're all grassers, man. Every one of us you know, is closing in on 25, 30 years of playing bluegrass.
And I'm glad I finally caught on to what that meant because the first couple times I interviewed people for Bourbon and Beyond and they referred to themselves as grassers, I thought they meant something else. And I'm like, okay, that's great that you have that hobby. And they're like, hobby, what do you mean? And then I eventually caught on that they meant bluegrass instead of the other kind.
That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, shoot. I mean, how did those nights of performing night after night make you the artist you are today?
Well, there's no substitute. I mean, you can practice all you want. There's no substitute for time on stage. Time on stage entertaining folks is just it's a craft like anything else. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. Songwriting is a craft. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. Regardless, I mean, you do need some natural talent. I feel like that people are going to be naturally inclined to different things. I mean, I could practice every day at at football, and I'm never going to be worth a damn. I'm not really built right for it. I don't have a whole lot of good hand-eye coordination, and among other physical issues that I just physical limitations that I would have. I don't have a certain talent for that. So I think there is a little bit of an innate talent needed for music, but getting up on stage is the most important experience. And I'm working on it constantly. It's something that I'm never going to be done with. We're always trying to improve. Everybody in this band is always trying to improve, and we're all probably a little bit too hard on ourselves and perfectionist at times. But what was nice about playing every week is it got you exactly that. Time to play with wonderful special guests, time to play in front of big crowds, small crowds, crowds that don't give a damn, crowds that are enamored with you. Try out jokes, try out banter, try out how to introduce people. Sometimes something I would think is very funny, nobody thinks is very funny, or something that I don't think is that funny, people do. Sometimes the same joke or bit or whatever you want to call it might work on one audience and in the same damn place and not on a different audience the next. So you just don't ever know. And that time on stage is just as it's probably more important than anything. I mean, we all play at home and try to woodshed as much as we can, especially my bandmates spend a lot of time working on different practice techniques and learning several different ways of playing things. But yeah, time on stage is the most valuable thing, man, because it just teaches you how to play under some kind of adrenaline, and then also how to interact with folks. That's probably the most important part, because we get up on stage, we're trying to touch people in somewhere, in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, create that emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So you mentioned about being on stage. I can imagine one of your favorite stages to be on is the Ryman Auditorium. Why is it such an amazing place to perform?
I think it's haunted. Um, Everybody had told me that, and it's got this wonderful history, very old part of history, being a church essentially before it turned into what it is. And man, it just has a neat aura, a neat energy. It's hard to believe that it sat derelict and vacant for so long when you go in there, because it's just such a cool place. And I think we're all so glad and thankful that they were able to save it way back a long time ago. And just the history, of course, you're reminded of it as soon as you walk in the door out there, because they've done a wonderful job curating that place. It's super professionally ran, just like the Opry. The staff over there is just so friendly and so together, and welcoming, and they've got every T crossed and every I dotted, and so that certainly is a welcoming feeling whenever you get there. But there's just something different about it, and it was very much a lived experience for me, to be able to say that, because I had always wanted to, and I got to for the first time in 2022. And so we've done it 3 times now, and I don't think it'll ever get old, man. There's probably no time like the first time, just like with anything else. But it's kind of surprised me at just how intimate it feels standing on stage. It's 1,900 people, I think, when it's fully sold out, and you can see everybody in the audience, man, and you're close to the audience, and it just felt great, man. There's just something that was so special about it, and that was something that we'd all done it. Well, I'd never done it before 2022, but everybody else had done it with different bands, and so for us to do it as our own group and step up to the mic and sing our own songs and do our own show was just killer. If I never got to do anything else again, I would definitely say that was one of my favorite experiences I ever had.
Yeah, we got a really fun place like that in Cincinnati called Bogarts, and it's one of those places that so many legends and so much history. When you walk in the building, you can feel the history. It just makes it nice.
Yeah, Cincinnati's got a great musical history.
So bluegrass tends to fall on a spectrum, from rough and tumble, high energy to highly polished studio ready. Where does East Nash Grass fall on that spectrum?
I think it's both. We all are probably on a little bit of a different spectrum. In fact, in that that sometimes really helps with musicality. Um, but that's one of the things I love about the band is the diversity, different singers, different types of songs, different type. Everybody writes in the band, and um, so I think we're diverse enough that we're somewhere in that spectrum constantly, and we just go from one side of the spectrum to the other and try to do different moods and speeds and tones, and just try to provide as much color as we can in each show. And I also think that everybody tries to do things different and try to constantly change it up and try to entertain ourselves and the audience, to try to keep things diverse. And I hope that answers the question. But yeah, I think we're always, music is an ever changing thing. It's not something that you really hold in the palm of your hand. It's something that's always moving, always
Exactly.
flowing.
So, how does it feel to have Paul, and I'm going to Meisinger? Am I saying it?
Shimminger.
Schiminger, yes. Call East Nash Grass one of the most entertaining bluegrass bands anywhere. I mean, that's a pretty darn compliment from someone who's pretty high up in the business.
That it is. We met Paul. He started coming to D's pretty early on. I don't know how he caught on. We were playing there, but we met Paul at D's years ago, and Paul has always been good for us to bring different folks to come listen to us, and always been in our corner. So yeah, that's just another Nashville experience. Not to be too cliche, but like um, that was one of the things I loved about Nashville is just like access to influential folks and respected folks that maybe that we wouldn't get elsewhere. And Paul was just kind of part of that, and it plays into that communal aspect of bluegrass, which I think is super important. And so does Paul, of course. And so, yeah, we're honored to have anybody that thinks good of us, but especially somebody who's real highly influential and respected in the industry.
Your new album, Last Chance to Win, dropped August 18th. How have fans and critics been responding?
Well, it was August of last year, so it's technically still the new album, but we're
Oh, wow. My bad.
no, it's all good. It's still the new album,
Yeah.
and we've got another one in the works. And you know, it we were really happy with the results of what people thought about it, and um, but it's funny that you do so much work on the record release, and our PR agent Maria Ivy, she said one phrase that kind of caught my ear, and she said basically when the record is released, it's dead on arrival. It's you do all this work on the front end, you're pumping all this stuff, do all this publicity and interviews and things like that on the front end of it, and you do that for months and months, and then when the record is finally released, it's something that you recorded maybe a year ago, and
Hmm.
it's something that you've been, the songs you've been playing for a long time. And a recording is just that little snapshot of where you were at that point in time, that week or months or whatever time period that you did it. It's just kind of a snapshot of that period. And so you'll move on, as time moves on, and what you would play would be different and what you sing would be different. And so man, it was just one of those that we were happy to get it out, and now we're kind of ready to get this next one out.
Right. I
We're
understand as an artist that you were more originally into the live performance, but now as an artist, you've kind of got more into the recording aspect of it.
sure, and I think that's probably part of getting older. Not that I'm old, I don't think, but I'm 36 and I've been playing my entire life, and um, the live aspect is seems more fleeting than the recording. And I started realizing the permanence of recording and just that of what it is. And I just decided that that'd be one of the best things that I could leave behind. Life is so short, and the prime of your career is so short, and so to be able to document as much as you can in a way that will, hopefully positively impact people for years and years to come, even after you're gone, is maybe one of the most important things that we can do. And I started looking at that just as if just not like a midlife crisis thing, but just like a growing up thing where you start asking yourself, like, okay, well, what am I going to leave behind? What did I do here? What will be left? What will matter after my time is gone? And the recording just seems to me like the simplest answer of something that I could leave behind and try to impact people for not just my lifetime, but time after then I'm gone. And so once I took that outlook on things, I just started taking it a lot more serious with the writing and performing, of just knowing that, almost feeling like we had a little bit of an obligation at that point to try to leave behind the best thing that we could.
I'm not sure if it was the same motivation for Blues Travelers, but they started recording a lot of their shows and giving fans the opportunity to purchase just random shows, not just the major events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we've done a little of that, and we would like to do more of that. We just have to build up our team, as a touring band. It's only been touring for, excuse me, a couple years. We we would love to have somebody that could help us with that, and that's on our list because the live stream out of D's was something that connected us with so many people, and we did not even anticipate that. It kind of snuck up on us and surprised us. We just started doing it because we needed something to do during the pandemic, and then we come to find out, especially as we started traveling, that a lot of people from all over the world and all over the country especially were watching and paying attention, and we just did we had no idea about that. So we would love to be able to share that more. There's a lot of other great bluegrass artists that have done that, and I think it's very impactful for the folks that can't get to every show.
So, with being blown up on Spotify with your album Last Chance to Win, Railroad and Gambling, I Almost Told Her, Magic City Gray, and Starlit Iris, which is your favorite to play live?
Hmm. I don't know if I really have a favorite. You know, for my own self-interest would probably say I Almost Told Her because I wrote it, but any of those songs are really fun to play, man. There's not one of them that we ever get tired of. We do, particularly Starlight Iris and I Almost Told Her, every show. The other ones when we can work in, but there's not a song on the record that I don't enjoy playing and didn't enjoy recording. And it's funny when you do those things, you don't always know which one is gonna. You have an idea of which one will do better than others, but especially when it's something you write, man, it's hard to tell if it's good or not. I don't. sometimes I might think something's good, and the next day I won't. I guess we're always our own hardest critics, but um, it that's the best part of releasing it, is just release it into the wild and let people decide what they think about it and what songs that relate to them, and what don't. And somebody actually asked me back a few months ago, that we were talking about doing our next album, which we have nearly done, and we need to get in and do some overdubs to be able to finish it. And she asked, "Is it better than the first album?" And I'm a little reactionary sometimes, to my, probably to not to my benefit, and it kind of ticked me off a little bit, because I don't know. And that's what I told her. I have no idea. I hope it's better than the last one. I'm going to try to make it better than the last one. We're going to all try together to write and perform the best that we can. But do I know that everybody's going to like it better? I
Exactly.
don't.
I know what you mean. I've heard that for many artists that, shoot, even if it's not as popular or not as, mainstream or not as, out there as, say, the one album that was huge, it's better because it's what you're currently doing and how you currently feel. And I think that's more important, to express yourself and express how things are going versus, you know, is it better because it sells more or less records, which is kind of a dumb way to judge music. It should be about what's inside that counts.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very astute way to put it.
But yeah, James, it has been a pleasure having you on the show, learning more about the East Nash Grass Band. And of course, we are excited about Bourbon and Beyond, because we're excited every year about Bourbon Beyond. It is such an amazing event. That Thursday you're going to be there is just going to be a phenomenal day of music. Not to downplay the other 3 days, but I mean, gosh, you guys are going to be phenomenal on that stage. And we look forward to seeing you there. Before we let you go, where on social media, where on the web can we find out more about you?
We are on all the regular social medias except Twitter. We don't do that one, but we do Instagram, Facebook. We have a YouTube channel that's got a little bit of content on there. Lots of stuff from D's over the years, and then a website's got our merch store, tour dates, and all that. And we'd just like to thank you for having me as well. These have been great questions. It's been really fun to be here.
Our pleasure.